Hi, everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of the New Worlds podcast here from the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools podcast network. My name is Mr. Jasper, and I'm the educational technologist here at the school. I'm here again with Mr. Mark Robertson, our fantastic English teacher, who is leading this project as an exploration of the book Brave New World. His students are creating podcast episodes with their own reflections on the book, and this episode today comes to us from students Alexa and Ryan. This episode is called Consume the Good and Restrain the Drain. Mr. Robertson, could you give us a quick explanation of what Alexa and Ryan talk about in this episode?
Yeah, so here Ryan and Alexa consider how the world state is a culture of unrestrained consumption, which sounds super familiar. And I so appreciate how they hit upon a key message of the novel, which is the soul-making value of restraint, of delaying gratification.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Mr. Robertson. At this time, of course, we're going to throw it over to the episode that Alexa and Ryan recorded. Thank you, as always, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, guys. Welcome to our podcast about consumption and restraint. I'm your humble host, Ryan, and this is my bountiful wingman, Alexa.
Hey, guys.
And I will be asking her questions about Brave New World. So, Alexa, how does Brave New World show consumption?
So, consumption in the society is important since it brings a source of income. And the state has conditioned people to use more goods by programming them to serve the economy, which inevitably leads them to more consumption. And I have a quote to read for you, and it says, "Every man, woman, and child is compelled to consume so much a year. And however they are inclusive toward the consumption of certain things like flowers and nature, because they encourage reflection and discourage consumption." So these things are exclusive and are not a part of the society. And to finish it off, another quote I have says, "It's strange to think that even in Ford's day, most games were played without more apparatus than ball or two and a few sticks and perhaps a bit of netting. Imagine the folly of allowing people to play elaborate games which do nothing whatever to increase in consumption." So this society is about consumption and restraint, and they use it in different ways, but they're also exclusive towards certain things.
Interesting. The second question we'll have today is, how does Brave New World show restraints?
So in Brave New World, there really is no restraint and no revolt. They continuously consume soma and turn to that in times of need when they do not want to deal with anything or want to feel numb. And instead, as people, we should use some sort of restraint to help us from consuming those worldly things.
Interesting. My third question is, how is consumption good and how is it bad in Brave New World?
So it is good because consumption is necessary to get things to live off of and survive, but it is also bad because too much consumption can lead to idolizing things you shouldn't.
And the fourth question, how is restraint good and bad in Brave New World?
So restraint is good because it can keep us accountable for the things we shouldn't partake in, and restraint is bad because it can keep or hold us back from doing things that we might miss out on.
And the last question we have for Alexa is, how does Brave New World relate to culture today?
So Brave New World relates to our culture today because our culture shows consumption and restraint. We are constantly trying to consume as much as we can to try and buy happiness, and in our culture there isn't much restraint, I personally feel like. And as Christians, we should try and show restraint because there are worldly things that we should not partake in, that God calls us to be on the right path.
On that topic, let's relate this to music. Alexa, do you have any songs or anything, maybe by with Jonathan, that might relate to what we're talking about?
Yes, so John Mayer has a song called "Waiting on the World to Change," and This can be referred to Brave New World because they are waiting on the world to change, but the world isn't changing, so they try to change their own world with Soma, which isn't okay because they're turning to substances to try and fix their problems, but obviously their problems aren't being fixed. All right, so now it's my turn to ask Keppel some questions.
That's me.
So, what are some ways our culture today deals with consumption?
It's a great question, Alexa. I think personally our culture deals with consumption in a lot of ways, like trying to buy too many things to try and fill their life with happiness. They try and buy cars, try and buy houses, try and buy friends, and they try and think that'll bring them happiness. But the truth is it won't. It just won't. Things like family, friends that you don't buy, and God are the only things that can truly fulfill happiness. So I think our culture, when it comes to consumption, they got it all wrong. They try and buy things, they try and fill their life with things that just won't fulfill them in the end. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with our culture today.
So, in addition to that, how does our culture show restraint?
That's another great question. Very insightful. I think our culture really struggles with the word restraint. The word restraint is a scary word to us these days. I think it's a word that we hear that and we're like, ew, I don't want to restrain from something because I want everything. Speaking of everything, there's a song by Pitbull called Give Me Everything. And I just think that song is a great example of what culture really just loves. They just want everything right now in the moment. They don't want to wait for things. They don't want to restrain. And I think that things like drugs and like alcohol are things that really are just tough to restrain from culture today. You know, they see those things, they get addicted to those things, and they just want those things right away. And as Christians, we can show restraint. Like, it's a little bit easier for Christians because God is all the fulfillment that we truly need.
Great insight, Kep. So, how can consumption be good and bad in our culture?
You know, consumption is one of those things that when used rightly, it can be a great thing. You know, you can consume things such as food. That's good for your body to eat. Eating is very important. I want everyone to hear that. Consuming knowledge is another great thing. That's why we go to school. We consume knowledge. We consume knowledge from people, consume knowledge from, our teachers. Mr. Robertson gives us a lot of knowledge. But consuming can also be a bad thing, such as drugs, alcohol, sexual intentions that you might want to consume in the moment. But then you realize that those things do not fulfill. Those things are things that are not fulfilling. But also, here's a little insight for you. People can try and consume too much social media. They can try and consume it, have it fill their lives, have it fill their thoughts. You just mindlessly scroll. And what does that really do for you in the end? I don't think it does much.
Again, how can restraint be good in our culture and how can it be bad?
Now, restraint is where it gets interesting because sometimes people give too much restraint on things that could make them happy or that could further make them better, we'll say. Things like, school, a job, sports. When they restrain from those things too much and they don't work enough on them, they don't reach their max potential. But obviously, restraint from the good things, again, I bring up drugs, I bring up alcohol, those kind of things you can restrain from are good. But you can also restrain from people in your life that don't make you happy, people that drain from you. You can restrain from the drain. And I think that's a really important thing, to stay away from people that don't bring you overall happiness.
And last but certainly not least, so what are ways we can show restraint to worldly things and follow the path Jesus has called us to be a part of?
That's a great question. I think that ways that we can show restraint to worldly things are just by you got to really believe in God and just believe that He has a path for you. And these worldly things that you see around you and these temptations, they're not the main fulfillment in your life. They might bring you happiness and joy in the moment, but it was not fulfilling happiness like Jesus has called us to spread fulfilling happiness to others. And I just think that's really important. How do you show restraint to these worldly things in a world full of temptations? How do you stay away?
So I try and show restraint by turning to God in times of need, especially in prayer. And I lean on the community of friends I have, whether it's asking them to keep me accountable or just to simply pray for me or pray over me. And I'm definitely very thankful for the community that God has given me, because it has definitely improved the way I act, and my friends are always there for me, and I'm thankful for that.
All right, everybody. I think that's all the time we have for today. Grab a friend, grab a loved one. Hope you cuddled in and had some fun. And, that's it. Have a good day, guys.
New Worlds is a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools podcast network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK-12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. For more information, please visit cvcs.org. And finally, if you have any questions or comments about our podcasts, please email podcasts@cvcs.org. Thank you again so much for listening, and be sure to subscribe to the feed to stay up to date with us.